Hi guys, so in this video we're going to have a look at creating a PC building simulator, and we're going to use Python's built-in user interface toolkit for this, which means that you need to have a full version of Python installed on your computer. So when I say a full version of Python, what I mean is that you need to have idle available, and you need to have something called tkinter, which is what we use to create graphical user interfaces in Python. So if you don't have that installed on your computer, just go to the web. You can download Python from this address, so python.org/downloads, and get the latest version of Python for your computer. And then once you've installed it, if you start up idle, so IDLE, and when it starts you're going to get a window like this, and then go to File and choose New File, and this is where we're going to write our program. Now, as you guys know, I like to split the screen into two, so I've got this output window on one side and I write my program on this side. And the first thing I'm going to do is type from tkinter import star. Now I'll save that program. I'll put it on my desktop and I'm going to call it pcbuilder.py. Now I'll run the program and I'll click on Run Module, but you can also press F5 if you want to run it quickly. And if that doesn't give you any errors, then you know that you've got everything that you need to install available. Okay, so what we need is this tkinter, and this program line says to Python, I'm going to use tkinter, so that Python makes that available for you. Okay, so every tkinter program needs to start with the line tk equals capital TK, like this. Now once you've got that line, we can start creating our user interface. Tkinter has lots and lots of different types of controls. The proper name for them is widgets. Widgets which we can put on the screen. So as an example, let's make a button. And then if I run that program, then you can see I get a little button. It says hello on it. And if I click it, it doesn't do anything because I haven't actually told the button to do anything. But this is what you can do with TK, okay? And when we use TK, you're going to see lots of lines that look a little bit like this. I type the name of the thing that I want to make, and then I might give it some customization. So, for example, in this case, I say that I want some text on the button, and the text that I want on the button is the word hello. And then after I've created that button, normally I'm going to put .pack on the end, and what .pack does is it finds a space in the window and puts the button into that space. So if I leave out the .pack, then what happens is that although I did make that button, I don't see it on the window because it hasn't been put into a space. So you need the .pack if you want to actually see anything. Okay, now the button that I showed you is just a normal click button, but actually the button that we're more interested in is what's called a radio button. So you will have seen radio buttons before. It's basically a type of button that we use to select one of multiple options. So I'm going to change that button to radio button, like this, and then run it. And this is what we would call a radio button. So it has a label and then it has an option, and you can click on the option, and normally there's multiple options and you can choose which one you want. So let's create multiple options. Now I need to store the option that's been chosen up the top. So because we're making a PC building application, the options that I'm going to create are options about which CPU you would like to put in your PC. So I'm going to create a variable. I'll call it CPU cost equals int var Now this int var is something which we use specially for tkinter, and all I'm saying basically is that the cost of the CPU is going to be an integer. Now what I do when I write my radio button is I'm going to say i3 CPU Intel i3. So you guys probably know i3 is like Intel's cheap and rubbish CPUs, and Intel i5 CPU, which is kind of in the middle. They're not so bad. Now, when I make the radio button, if I just run it like this, then actually both of the radio buttons is selected, because tkinter doesn't know that I want to choose only one of those two options. So to make tkinter know that I only want to choose one of those options, I make sure that both of the options are connected to this integer variable CPU cost. So I do that by writing var equals CPU cost, and here var equals CPU cost. Now, as well as that, I need to give a value for each button. So each CPU obviously is going to cost a different amount, and I want to use real data for this exercise. Okay, so I'm going to go to Amazon, and then I'm going to search for Intel i3 CPU. Okay, and I'll use dollars here. So this is $111.78. Now, because we're using integers to keep this simple, I'm just going to round it to the nearest whole dollar, so I'll put $112. So value equals 112. And then on the second one, this is $114. No, hold on, that's an i3 again. I want an i5, don't I? So here we are, i5. So then value equals, now that's $170, so let's put that in. Oh, now hold on, there's a more expensive one there, unlocked, that probably has higher clock frequency. Okay, yeah, 4.6 gigahertz, and this is only 2.9 gigahertz, but I'm going to stick with the 2.9 gigahertz CPU. So that is $170, so I'll put 170 there. Okay, now, if I run my program, you can see I've got those two options for the CPU, and I can choose one of them, but not both now. Okay, so now if you're building a PC, as well as the option of CPU, you will also need some memory. So let's create some options for the memory. So I'm just going to copy and paste these options and then adjust them. So we could have 8 gigabytes of DDR3 memory. That would be a relatively cheap option. Or I could have 16 gigabytes of DDR3 memory. Now, DDR3 memory is a cheaper but slower form of memory. So you can also get DDR4 memory, which is good, especially if you're a gamer. You want good memory performance, but don't worry too much about DDR3 and DDR4 memory. That's not something that you have to know, but I'm just putting it down as an option. Okay, so I need to make another variable to store the choice of memory, so this will be the RAM cost. Okay, because remember, memory, there's different types of memory, but in this case we're talking about the computer's RAM. So then this will need to say RAM cost down here. And then again, we're going to use real data. So I'll go to Amazon and I'm going to search for 8 gig DDR3. And here we go, that's $28. Just again, rounding it up. And then 16 gigabytes of DDR3. So that's $54. And let's test our program now. Okay, so I can choose one of the processors, and I can choose one of the memory options. Now, what we want to do is we want to display at the bottom the amount that this PC is going to cost you to build. So to do that, at the very bottom, I'll write label equals label and that's actually all I need at the moment. And then label.pack. Now this is going to create a space for me to write some text. I can put some text on the label, so I could write text equals hello, for example, and I'm going to get that text appearing at the bottom, hello, but I want that to show the price of the computer. So in order to do that, I'm going to use a little bit of a trick. This trick is going to be a little bit harder to understand, but you don't necessarily have to understand it at this stage. So if it's not something that you understand right now, don't worry, it's going to become a little bit clearer as we go through the course. But at the moment, you could just copy this part down. So what I do is I write def update, and then I'll going to get the cost. So I'll put total equals CPU cost.get plus RAM cost.get, and that gives me my total cost. So the cost of the whole computer at the moment is the CPU cost plus the RAM cost. I add those together, and then I write label.configure text equals. Now this is where I change what text is written on the label to the text that I want to appear. So if this is the cost, then the text that I want to appear is going to be a dollar symbol, and then I'm going to do open and close curly brackets, close quotation mark, dot format, and then I'll write total in here. Okay, so what this means is it's going to take those two curly brackets and it's going to replace that with the value of total. Okay, now I write tk.after 100 update. So what this means is that it's going to do this part of the program not just once, but it's going to do it every 100 milliseconds. So that means that if you choose a different option, then after at most 100 milliseconds, that option is going to update and show you the new total price. And then I write update at the end to start my program updating. So let's run that, check it works. So if I pick different options, you can see that the price changes there. Okay, guys, my task for you is to create a more complete program. It's going to have options for all of the different things that you might want to buy to create a PC, and it's going to tell you the total price of the PC. I might add in a total price equals here to make it look a bit neater. There we go. Now, there are some other things that you can do to make your application look a bit more appealing. So obviously, we've just looked at some really basic user interfaces here, but I'm going to show you a couple of ways that you can make your user interface look better. And you don't have to use all of these, but they're things that you can experiment with. So for example, I'm going to say frame equals label frame, CPU type as the text. Now a label frame is a frame which has a title and it can contain other things. So I've made a label frame here, and then I'm going to put these buttons, the Intel i5 and i3 CPU choices, inside that label frame. So I do that by creating the label frame, and then I write frame as the first thing inside the button here. Now after I've done that and I've put everything inside my frame, I need to say frame.pack. Now if I run that, you can see that it's put this border around the CPU type and it's got a title here, so that helps to group different items together. Now I can even give the frame different colors. So for example, I could put BG equals, now I'm going to write a hexadecimal color the same way that we've studied before. So let's have a maybe light green color, so something like AAFFAA. This might look horrible, but let's give it a try. Okay, so the border there is kind of minty green, light minty green, and I think I probably want the same background color on these buttons as well so that they match. Okay, that's not bad actually. I thought that was going to look more disgusting than it does. So maybe I'm going to do the same thing down here, so I can copy and paste down here. Frame, put frame into here and into here. And give it a background color. Now this, I'll make a different background color. How about if we make this one blue? Test that. Okay, not too bad. Now, you can see that this doesn't stretch over to the edge, and you might want this to stretch over so that it actually fills the screen. So if you want to do that, there are other things you can do. So in Pack, you can put sticky equals, hold on, not sticky, fill equals X. Now if you put fill equals X inside Pack, it's going to make everything fill out all the way across. I forgot to do fill equals X inside these Pack statements. So that looks a bit different. It looks like this. So it goes all the way across the screen instead of just going in part of the screen. Okay, it's a bit fiddly to get the edge there. There we go. So this gives you some idea. You might also want to change the title of your window. So you can do that with tk. I think it's title PC Builder. Let's try that. My window's a bit small, but there we are. There's the PC Builder. So there's all sorts of ways that you can customize your application to make it look more appealing. Later on we'll look at how you can do things like adding pictures and things like that, but I don't want to go too advanced at the moment. But guys, I hope this all makes sense. So my task for you is to create your own PC building application. Remember, I want to use real data. And think about all of the things that you would need to build a computer. So that could include things like, obviously, you need a CPU, you need RAM, you also need a graphics card, you need a motherboard, you need disk drives, and you need peripherals, right? So peripherals means things like mice, keyboard, and even a display.